Well, we're live, but there's no we. It's just me. So this is the Ammon Bogus Hangout, really. Hopefully some others will turn up in a little while. But meantime, I will, well, start on time and hope somebody else jumps in. So what have I been up to this week, since there's nobody else to ask? Very little. No, I've been doing some reports and basically having a little dig and a bit of thinking. Got a client who's in a very tough space and got to look at ways of link building that outdo rivals that basically have years on them and big TV ad campaigns that cost millions. So yeah, it's a thing that happens once you start to take big clients or once you start to take small clients in areas where big clients compete. It's always interesting. And it's the part of the job I kind of like the best. I do like the strategy. I do like thinking up ways to do what everyone else has missed. I like that bit. Well, I can't do the details of it, obviously. Compared to the smartwatch, who knows? I don't know if anybody else is going to jump in, but yeah, I'll give it about 5 minutes and we'll see what happens. You never know. Could be a very short episode. Bill's probably having trouble logging in again, because I don't think I've had a message saying that he's anywhere else. Nothing from Jen. Yeah, it's steampunk time, Dave. I thought I'd go for that. Oh, there's Jen.
Sorry, Google Hangout didn't give me an alert that the thing came through. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs, and finally I went to hunt down to find out where everybody was, and there was a link.
Yeah. Terry, look down. 2 posts under yours. He's asking for a link. It's in the Hangout text.
See, it wasn't just me then.
No, I sent the invites. I wrote it in the invite thing as well, in the invite chat. So you know, it should be out there. But, yeah, there you go. Google's playing up again. It does that every now and again. Yeah, no idea where Bill is, but I know he had trouble logging in last week, so it might be the same sort of thing. Although it's unusual for it to get to time and for him not to have said anything. So, Jen, how's your week been? What have you been up to this week?
We had a holiday in Canada yesterday, which, because I work on a U.S. schedule, I didn't realize until the weekend.
What was the holiday yesterday then?
BC Day. So I think every province has a holiday yesterday for provincial something or other. I think it's just really an excuse to have a day off in the middle of the summer, or a long weekend in the middle of summer.
Everyone needs, you know, some long weekends in the summer. You don't want them long weekends in the bad weather, do you? You know, you can't do anything with it. So did you do anything with the day off, or did you not even take the day off?
I didn't really take the day off. I kind of did, I guess.
The difficulties of working for yourself is it's very difficult sometimes to make yourself take time off at all, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I did go out, but I didn't do anything overly exciting.
Well, yeah, overly exciting. Did you do anything with the day off? Or did you not even take it?
I didn't really take the day off.
We get to experience our conversation again. Sometimes to make yourself take time off at all, isn't it? So what have you been up to in the past week? What's been keeping you busy this week? What news stories particularly leapt out here this week?
Well, I think the big news today is the whole AMP thing.
Yes.
And I'm totally distracted by Terry's echo.
Yeah, I've just put the mute on. We'll catch up in a minute. It's just behind schedule a bit. Yeah, I mean the AMP thing widening out is certainly it's something we were all expecting.
Yeah, it's something I've been saying. I've been telling people for ages, get your amp ready. Like, even if you're not specifically going to have stuff in the news, make sure you roll it out. You get your bugs and everything else dealt with before it goes like this. And now everyone's going to be scrambling with, oh my God, now what do I do?
Yeah, yeah. The timing is incredible because it's only today somebody was sort of asking um, one of the groups I'm in, how do you usually describe AMP? Do you usually say it's content or do you say it's news? And a couple of us had said, well, we usually say content, even though it's news focused. There's there's the exception. Dawn Anderson pointed out, sometimes it's soft news, i.e. blogs and things that aren't
Yeah, I mean, we have
necessarily
seen blogs showing up in it as well.
yeah. But we'd always expected it to widen out into other forms of content.
Yeah.
Probably, on a test basis. So, yeah, no huge surprise. Terry, are you with us? Have you caught up? I muted you earlier, so you got to unmute. There you go. Cool. How are you, sir? What's up with you this week?
Oh, not much. Like she said, it was a holiday yesterday, so that was just another excuse to do nothing. Still working on some optimization of some paid campaigns. I like looking at that stuff before I do the SEO because it always has some good information on where to prioritize your work. So I'll be working further on that today.
I think there's a lot you can learn from the paid campaigns anyway. It's something I said for a client years ago. They'd put out an RFP for some proposals to come in from SEO companies, and they'd been running their own pay-per-click for a couple of years. And this was a few years back, and half of the proposals came back, offering keyword research as part of the services. And I said they didn't do any research on you, did they? Because if you've been doing pay-per-click for a couple of years, you can tell them the keywords that actually convert, what they're worth. You know more about your keywords than they're ever going to be. They should be paying you.
That's true. If the campaign's being running, there's enough data there. One of the things I get first is I always look at where's the money being wasted. So all the Pinterest and a lot of the Facebook ads were all, you see Facebook ads, right? You pay for an ad, no time on the site, or such little that, out of 400 visitors, the average time is 30 seconds, which means I bet you if you put the analytics where it actually belongs, not in the head where Google tells you to do it, but at the bottom of the page, so you actually can tell that the page was seen, because otherwise if it's in the head, the person could see nothing of the page and it still counts as view. It's not.
Technically, I mean, they can open it in a tab.
Doing that. I see a lot of people doing that, and to me, when you start seeing pages that have very low times, that tells me you need to change your where you're putting your script, because it's not giving you accurate data as far as what's happening with the person on the site. Which, when I look at GA, that's what I'm worried about. Nothing more. What is the person doing on the site? So, yeah, it's important.
It's certainly it's something to look at. I wouldn't worry too much about where to place the tracking code on the page, because put it at the bottom and they've still opened it in a new tab, and you don't really know how much time they've spent on the page. So if it makes you feel better, go for it, but I wouldn't say it actually makes enough difference to be worth worrying about. Put it where it makes sense for you, and that's that.
Right, but if you have it there, right, if someone leaves it open, and you're going to get a higher number that you wouldn't see otherwise. I just find it makes more sense to have it there. The fact that Google tells you to put it in the head should be clueless to why all their ads, when they load, you know, if it's not a short thing, it could be that they're not even seeing the whole page, right?
It's certainly a thing. Yeah, it is a little bit. You're breaking up a little bit in sound there. If you've got anything else open, see if you can close it. It just sounds like your processor's a bit busy because it keeps going clear and then disappearing off into robot land again. But if you're getting clicks on Facebook ads, it shows people are interested, but it's the wrong content. Or, why are people clicking it and arriving but spending no time there? It's obviously not what they were expecting. So I'd say that you're right to look at it, but it's more a wasted opportunity because they're getting clicks from it. If they're not getting clicks, you know, fair enough. It's definitely worth killing.
Okay, but if you look at that same thing, right, and how I caught it was the numbers were so low that I looked at it a lot closer, and Facebook is really bad for that. So I changed the place where I put the GA code and saw a significant change in the traffic from Facebook ads, which tells me what they were bots. Right? That's one, you know, that's how you find bots. No time on the page.
Yeah, there's certainly a certain amount of fraud goes on. But Facebook generally, I've found a lot of people that are liking it. I certainly do. The main thing with Facebook is you've got to spend a lot more time with it. You've got the ability to target on demographics more than anything else, and that's exactly what you should do. And when you do so, it allows you to pinpoint target, and it costs next to nothing compared to a lot of pay-per-click for a lot of things. But it's got to be something that fits with the Facebook mentality. People do not go on Facebook to do work.
Here's what I found, which was really weird, was we're using the retargeting where if someone in Google search comes to your site, you set the retargeting, and they hit Facebook and get the ads from Google there. Those do convert.
Yeah.
And those are real people, right?
Yeah.
So that was really surprising.
But again, Facebook, if you've set your demographics right, the bots won't be seeing your ads in the first place. If you've set your demographics right, nobody's going to have created a bot that happens to fit that. Nobody. So really, don't be afraid to laser target on Facebook. That's exactly when it works best. Hey Bill, glad you could join us. Did you have trouble logging in again?
No. I had a company-wide meeting I had to go to. It ran a little bit late.
Right, everyone had me worried. You know, we got through a couple of minutes past. I was still on my own. I thought, oh, well, we'll go with it. We'll see if anyone turns up. What have you been up to this week, Bill?
I'm getting to the point where I have to start putting together a presentation for PubCon. And
Excellent.
I've got a phone call about that, and I've got to figure out the right way to present what I'm going to be talking about.
What is the topic?
It's about the evolution of search results and how they look, how they changed. You know, rich snippets or snippet cards, knowledge panels, and I've been noticing a lot of things with audits I've been doing that I include information about those things in. And I'm going to discuss some of the things I've found in audits.
Cool. It's something that is certainly interesting, the evolution of search results. It has impressed me over time. It's something I commented on the other day. Mike Grahan had shared a piece where he was talking about the evolution of SEO and search, and I said, you know, one of the things that always amuses me is that gradually we've wanted the machines to get less smart in a way. They were clean machine logic, and if you look at the biggest improvements in recent years, it's about getting away from that and for making machines as fallible and biased as we are, in fact, matching our biases.
Mm-hmm.
You know, personalized search isn't the best answer, it's the best answer for us. It's very biased, and that has been a huge advancement. And, you know, in a way you can argue, mostly in joke, that it's through making search more like humans and less perfect that you know, the real advancement has come.
Mm-hmm. I noticed on one of the latest audits I've done, a business had 2 different knowledge panels because they have 2 different locations. And for one knowledge panel, they had reviews in the middle of the knowledge panel. For the other one, they had a widget that allowed people to book appointments with them. So it was actually really useful in that in both instances, there were types of things that could lead to more actual in-office visits.
Yeah. It's always amazed me how much innovation there is in search results. You know, it's very easy to think, oh, right, you know, people ask a question and they get some links to answers. You know, for a long time, that was search. And Google have broken away from that in so many ways. And every one of those ways has been useful. I actually really like the knowledge panels. I like the carousels. I like the suggestions of refined searches, and I wish I'd like to see more of that. I think it teaches people to make better searches.
Or it makes them lazier.
Yeah, but a lot of people, you know, they don't think, oh, there's more uses to this term than the one I'm thinking of until, you know, they put it in, and even then it may not leap out at them from the results. They just think, oh, the search engine has no idea what I mean.
There's times I do searches and I use swipe on my mobile and I can see swipe has a totally wrong word and I'll still hit enter because I know that Google is probably going to be smart enough to figure out my mumbo jumbo what I actually meant, and most of the time it does. I'm sure that screws up analytics for a lot of people.
Yeah, it does. Hey Dawn, hello, how are you? What have you been up to this week? Ah, no sound. Okay. And frozen. No, not frozen, just silent. So that's how you get Dawn to be quiet. Everyone had been asking, and no. Sorry, Dawn, couldn't resist that one. Check the settings, the little cog icon. Make sure it's got the right mic in there. Sometimes it switches itself about. So, Jen, what aspects of, you know, the changing search results have really caught you over the years? Because, you know, you watch these things as closely as any of the rest of us.
Yeah, I think when they changed the width, that was a pretty big deal because suddenly people got way more character space to work with when creating their titles, but I know some people are seeing it roll back, so who knows if that'll stay or not. But I think that's probably the most significant change they've made. I always find it interesting to see the different colors they're testing. You know, like the one I really didn't like was the all black one because it was like, ugh, like the search results looked so boring without any color. You didn't realize it until it was gone.
Yep. Let me just see if that comment's pulled up. Here we go. Michael Thomas in the audience. Hi, Michael. Said, good afternoon from India, everyone. And yes, interesting topic since Google itself changed the search result format yesterday to reflect it's actually reflecting on itself. It does. It's amazing how self-referential at times Google can become. But I like things like this because they do show the evolution. You know, we are. One of the things I love about SEO is we are kind of all exploring this together. It is still very new. One of the reasons that, you know, the Google Q&As happen and the Webmaster Hangouts is we do all learn from each other, and it's nice to see that Google are not trying to dictate the web completely, but they are very much open to evolving as the web evolves, because, you know, it's got a long way to go. We none of us know what's really coming in the next few years. Mobile, yes, we saw it, a lot of people talked about it for a lot of years, but even so, I think augmented reality has opened so many new doors, and I'm expecting to see it start to come in within 5 years. I'm seriously expecting the price point to have come down to a point in 5 years that augmented reality will be starting to play an effect on how we use the internet, on how data comes into our lives.
We've got Google implementing low-cost solutions to augmented reality, like cardboard, where people are charging $15 for a cardboard headset, and they already have smartphones. And you know, I'm making educated guesses. Noticed last week Google started showing in knowledge panels links to social profiles, and they just added that to knowledge panels that were based upon Google My Business listings. They weren't showing links to social profiles for those before.
Yeah, I'm not sure how cardboard's going to fit in with augmented reality unless they design a set where, you know, it's the phone only goes over one eye and its camera is also looking. Yeah.
It's sort of like they're doing augmented reality with Pokemon, where you see the video image of the Pocket Monster on top of the image behind your phone from your camera, and you see both. So
it is going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting.
That combination of actual video footage from your phone and camera imagery is the type of thing I wrote about a patent from Apple, where they talked about an augmented reality display that they're developing. And same type of thing. You hold your phone over something, the camera shows like a student's exam paper, and the augmented reality part are the correct answers to questions on the exam. So a teacher and a student can go over the paper, student's paper, and look at the wrong answers and look at the right answers at the same time.
Yeah. It's a fascinating new world, and I mean, I love what's being done. You know, magically, their technology is in finally breaking down the thing of most virtual reality. One of the immersion things that fails is, of course, you're looking at a screen that's inches from your eye, and although the image changes, the focus of your eye doesn't, and in the back of your mind you are aware of this, that you're looking at actually an image that's only an inch away, no matter what it's showing. Whereas magically, one of the beautiful things they've done is in the glass, where it actually makes you focus into the distance for objects in the distance. It actually layers them in 3D space and makes the eye focus at a longer distance.
Did they partner with Lucasfilm? It's a good technology partner when you're doing something visual.
Yeah, and of course Peter Jackson is also involved there, so that, you know, you can have 3D hobbits. I don't know, but I think the technology really impresses a lot of people, and it's going to be very interesting in the next few years, because it really does take away, you know, virtual reality can be any device you want. It's real freedom, because if you need a big screen and a keyboard, it can project one in front of you and interact with your fingers interacting with it, even though it's not actually there. And that's fascinating. And if you want something where it's, you know, quite big steam machine to go with my background, with levers and dials, it can project it that way. It really does open up some interesting ideas for how you can play with data and how you can play with the inputs and outputs to make everything more fun.
Augmented reality, though, can take the images in front of you that you're building upon, use their texture, use their shapes, and build something on top of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the ability for people to collaborate that way with augmented is going to be fascinating. It really is. I am very much looking forward to it, and I'm honestly seeing that this is, you know, we're going to start seeing real interesting stuff in this field within 10 years. I think we're only going to see the first movers within 5, but within 10 years we're going to start to see something that's going to become massively impressive.
At this point, we're sort of limited by our imaginations, because we don't have those people who've taken lots of risks and chances to grow the industry. Sort of like film when it was first starting out, and people were figuring out how to do different types of visual effects.
Yeah.
We need that in augmented reality to take place. That type of imagination applied.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I'm going to lose my geek license, but I was never that impressed with Star Wars as a story. You know, the original Star Wars, okay, but it's just, it was Indiana Jones again. It was, you know, so many other adventures.
It was a pretty good Western.
Exactly, it's a generic story, very family oriented. I preferred The Empire Strikes Back. That was a bit more gritty. But what makes it a movie everyone should know about is the way it revolutionised special effects. You know, forever. The idea of computer-generated effects and robot-generated modelling all came from that. And they, you know, this is why LucasArts, you know, started up. Is there was nobody doing these effects. They had to create their own company and end up leading, you know, Industrial Light and Magic and things like that. About 3 different major special effects companies came out of the need that Star Wars created and the advancements.
I thought it might be fun to look through the patents from Lucasfilms to find patents of some of the early games and toys that came from, and that's not what I was finding. I was finding lots of stuff that talked about the different visual effects that they were going after, which weren't the types of visual things I was looking for to put on my blog. To say, here's the first Boba Fett doll and so on. But it was as interesting, if not more so. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, of course, you don't have to patent Boba Fett because it's actually an artistic work, a creative work, rather than, you know, the standard sort of patent stuff.
There are things known as design patents, where you're not copywriting, but you're taking something like a game or a toy and maybe patenting the look and feel of that.
Yeah.
Apple just came out with a bunch of design patents on how their different devices are shaped. You know, so you have a curved screen, or you have curved edge to a four-sided box that's done in a certain way, and you can get a patent on that look.
Yeah. Let's see if Dawn's got her sound now. Come on, Dawn, say something. Let's see if it works.
Hi.
Yay!
Oh, sorry about that. It was a combination of me having about 55,000 things open on the computer. I never close things. Loads of applications, loads of duplicate files. Then the Mac decided to update itself. Then the Mac guy in the corner on my Mac keeper keeps talking to me. He's driving me mad. So just a series of various this, that, and the other. So apologies for that.
Oh, don't apologise to us. You know, it was lovely seeing you all frustrated and unable to speak for a change.
No, that's unusual. Is everybody good yet? Everybody fine? Is everybody fine?
Yeah. What have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to? So, well, just working, and I've got some trips planned, so I've been planning for those, and obviously trying to shuffle client projects around so that I get everything done. And I'm actually starting a blog post, funnily enough. I never blog, if anybody's noticed. I never blog, actually. But I'm doing one at the minute, and hopefully you should see it quite soon. Yeah. So, yeah, hopefully it'll be of interest. It's around something fairly recent. So, yeah, that's about it, really. Yeah, and Pilates, of course. That was this evening.
Bill, coming back to the copyright thing, I saw the post about Disney, which I also thought was very interesting. How Disney have traditionally been very quick to jump to legal recourse to anyone using their trademarks.
Yeah.
They're not quite Getty, but they're certainly not afraid to threaten people.
Okay, so Frozen was written in 1834. Right. Most people don't realize that it's based upon something from last century.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's true of many of the things Disney's done. They're based on works in the public domain.
Oh, yeah, often. I mean, fairy tales are one of their absolute classics. And reinventing fairy tales as well. Even some of their feature films.
Rudyard Kipling, Edgar Rice Burroughs, not just fairy tales. It's works that were written before 1921.
One of the things I've always loved about Disney is the fact that they're not afraid to look at classic works of all times. I'm a fan of Fantasia. I love Fantasia, and I think it's a wonderful way to introduce a young audience to classical music and the power of it that they might otherwise miss.
Where does that leave them, Bill? From a legal perspective, if they start to kind of try and copyright various things that are actually public domain properties.
Well, you can't copyright something that's public domain because it's public domain. It means somebody else has already created it and they've had copyright protection. They no longer need it. It's run out. It's been turned over to the public to use and reuse and innovate with.
But that's exactly where they can sometimes come in with this thing of patenting a particular look or a particular interpretation of things, isn't it?
Do they try to maybe adapt it slightly and then copyright the adaptation so that they may sort of change it by, I don't know. I just remember somebody telling me once that if something has got 6 differences from something else, it's actually not classed as the same. I'm sure it's not quite as simple as that, but I'm just thinking that maybe the costumes, or I don't know, because obviously the costumes are absolutely. I remember my family members. Kids were just crazy for all those Ella and Elsa costumes. So I'm thinking that maybe that's the kind of thing that they then try to, well, they will potentially copyright. I don't know. Is that how they get around it, or?
Well, Disney, for having made multiple fortunes, millions and millions and millions, based on stories that were in the public domain, has been one of the staunchest protectors of copyright to exist. And, you know, God bless Mickey Mouse entering copyright and being used by somebody who wasn't Disney. Can't have that happen. But they've been fighting to protect copyrights on things and to extend copyright. So the article we were talking about was one where it talked about how Disney laid off on some of the copyright protection when people started doing things with Frozen, parodies and advertisements and jokes.
In two cases, in fact, you know, they looked at the two opposites. One was how Disney have been much more relaxed about Frozen and people's derivative works, parodies, and so forth on YouTube, because they have realised, look, this is free advertising. Our brand on this is incredibly strong. Everyone talking about Frozen only pushes the demand for the real Frozen, and you know, it's worked well for them. And meanwhile, somebody did some filming in Disney parks without any permission, and a rather scathing, dark piece. It did well at a film festival, but everyone said, oh, well, that's a film that's never going to get anywhere. Disney's going to come down on that like a ton of bricks. And they didn't, and it went from being a story about this film that was going to get nowhere to being no story at all, and that was exactly the right thing to do. They didn't give it the publicity that it would have had if they'd come down hard on it.
But do you remember that? Do you remember that train company, the Dumb Ways to Die thing? Do you remember the Melbourne train company that had all the various memes, and it won absolutely loads of awards at the Lions Awards, the Media Advertising Awards, etc. Oh yeah, okay.
Just pulling up Dave's comment there.
Yeah.
Leads you right back to Vertigo.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it was computer generated exactly.
Yeah. But do you remember that, anybody? You know, the Dumb Ways to Die thing? What they did was, the company, it was the Melbourne Railway Company, they literally, they turned the whole invention, if you like, media invention, over to the public, and it just, people made massive parodies out of it, and they really changed things. They reduced things like accidents on railways. All the kids were singing it in schools, and because they didn't push the whole copyright thing, look it up when you get a chance. Just Dumb Ways to Die.
Yeah,
my kids were singing it. It gets in your head, and it's quite annoying. But loads of people just extended that whole like idea, ran with it, because they kind of effectively turned it over to the community, and the community just made it massively more successful than it would have been if they just ring-fenced it with, this is our idea and you can't take it anywhere type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Although it was only the song bit that really could have been copyrighted anyway, because let's face it, if you were to put the phrase Dumb Ways to Die into Google, everyone expects the Darwin Awards to come back. You know, those things are legend. It
wasn't just the song, it's the characters as well. If you look it up on YouTube, it's amazing the things that people did from it. It's just, you know, that you had kids singing, you had kids answering quizzes to do with it, you had other cartoons that had been made. They had all these strange little characters as well, you know, almost like Mr. Men type things, but they were all in bits where obviously one had stuck his finger in a socket, one has had his head chopped off, one had been eaten by a bear. Point was, don't go on the railway, and it was just massively successful. It won loads of awards. Yeah, so, you know, just making the point that sometimes when people pass things over to the community, they just get a massive return on investment that they wouldn't have if they tried to get all, you know, protective about stuff.
And that does touch on one of the major changes in marketing generally in the past 15 years. That there was an old theory of business that was absolutely king 30 years ago, which was the command and control mentality. That you control the message, you control the brand, you control all these things, and that the internet has been about releasing that, because for something to go viral, something you control is never going to go viral. That's not how it works. People have to be invested in it.
The community have to build that. The community have to take that forward.
Yeah.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's hard. It's not easy, because you've got to have kind of a brand or some sort of something that people will become super fans of almost, don't you? And that's really quite hard to achieve unless you throw quite a lot of cash at it.
We talk a lot about engagement, but one of the oldest things that we use as a metric is return on investment. And I always say, think about the word investment and think about how to make your customers and your audience invested in you, because once they are invested, they will be finding their own ways to gain
they become
return on
advocates.
investment.
Well, they become advocates. They kind of move up the whole, the customer ladder of loyalty, don't they? And to the various stages, from like a one-time buyer to to the next stage, and then they're kind of passive admirers, but then they become almost like super fans, and it just goes on from there. And then they're doing things collaboratively with you. Can't remember whose model it is, but there's a really good model called the customer ladder of loyalty, and it literally is effectively, in the end, you're not even really spending much on marketing, because your audience is kind of doing it for you. Does that make sense?
Exactly that. And one of the things most of I'm quite a keen advocate of gaming, online computer games, and one of the things I love there is the way that there's still this mix. You've got companies who try to control everything. They're kind of like Apple in their way of producing games. They want to control the entire experience. And then you've got games that come out and they're designed from the start to be modded. They create APIs. They create ways for the community to create add-ons and invest in that game. And
they become massive. They become absolutely massive, those. I mean, most of the open source, most of the websites of the world are kind of, they sprung from forks from the open source community. Nowadays, Magento and Joomla and Drupal, etc. And when you hand things over and say, extend this as you will and be creative, it does amazing things happen. And that's, AMP is going to be in that direction. I really believe that, because the speed at which people are picking up on that and moving it forward. I know it's a different subject, but I'm just really, really kind of surprised. I subscribe to the GitHub updates on how things are moving on that, and it's unbelievable. You're just getting emails all the time from people extending it and doing commits and all that kind of carry on. And yeah, it's incredible when you actually hand stuff over and to a creative community. It's great.
But isn't Apple sort of the opposite of that? Didn't Bill Gates write them a letter at one point in time saying, when are you guys going to start licensing your equipment so we can build based upon it like Windows?
I think that's the point that Ammon's making, that you do get some organisations that are very much, they're controlling everything.
At one point in time, Windows said, okay, build Windows computers. License the technology, see what you can come up with. And Apple never quite went that route.
No. Apple have been traditionally absolutely the opposite of that. The PC community, half of the joy of people who are really into their computers is modding them, is coming up with your own. If you're a serious PC user, you've got a custom rig. It doesn't matter whether it's simply that you added one drive.
My
there's
son's just
something you
rebuilt
want-
one. He drove me mad, actually. It was all over my kitchen table last week. Oh, God. He's built himself like this super duper massive gaming thing. And it's got like water things that spin around the fan and, oh, God. Lights on it, blue lights.
Did it
Just
have
loves
GPUs built into it?
Oh, it's got everything. It cost a fortune. He's like, he saved up, I think it cost him like something like £2,000, and he's built that himself.
Yeah.
And he literally went on the computer, like parts website, he literally knew exactly what he needed. And it was almost like he was building it like a kit car. Bits of this and bits of that and this particular screen and looking through all the options and God, it was.
We're very lucky in the UK. I don't know what the US equivalent is, but here in the UK there's a company called Scan.
That's the one. Luke loves it. Luke lives there. It's
They
near
are,
me.
they
Yeah.
are brilliant because they will build it for you and complete with the
Luke
3D
goes in there
device
though,
guarantee.
Ammon. Luke goes because they're near me. You know, they're actually in Bolton.
Yep.
Day out for Luke to go to Scan. It's like
That's it. My computer is a Scan one, and it's a monstrous beat.
yeah,
It's huge.
yeah. It's a really good website actually. Yeah, but they have they have gaming tournaments there at Scan.
Yeah.
It's a day out, and they literally end up with all these gaming geeks from all over the place just all rocking up there, and they have these rock star gaming stations with like three massive screens built into this table with all your music, your chairs like built onto the table. It must be like about £5,000.
And the rest, yeah.
Yeah,
They are.
they're yeah. But Luke absolutely is in love with that place. He thinks it's.
Oh yeah. The last sort of treat that way I gave myself was many years ago now. It was about 9 years ago. I thought it's probably the last time I'm going to do this. I was involved with a gaming group, and they had a weekend in Birmingham. They just opened up a computer gamers place. The whole place was super wired for tournament play. Had 100 computer desks that were set up with all hardcore gaming rigs,
Wow.
super fast access, and the gaming company had organised a trip there, for people who could afford X amount and wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, it's the last chance. I'm getting too old to do this much more, but yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to geek out for a whole weekend with a load of gamers, and I had a great time.
Yeah.
Got hardly any sleep.
Yeah. No, they're nice people.
I haven't noticed any yet. I've been looking for trade shows. They were around on the East Coast of the U.S. I haven't seen them here on the West Coast yet. But you used to go to them, buy a case, buy a motherboard, buy memory, buy drives, and put your own computer together.
Yeah, all of mine, even the ones I've bought, as backup machines, and then I'm always going to add a custom graphics card and things like that, because most of them just rely on the one that's built on the chip, and it's not that good. It'll play games that were a couple of years old, but it won't play today's games. So you've got to have a graphics card, and if you get a good graphics card, you can get some great stuff going. And this machine, I wanted some decent specs so that I can run my software and be able to mess about with stuff on the fly. That means that I want to have a graphics card so that I can process the images without any kind of slowdown.
What's the story about the screen behind you today, Ammon?
Oh, I just fancied the steampunk background. So yeah.
At least it's not moving today, because it gives me quite a headache sometimes. You should really have a warning on there. Anybody with epilepsy or affected by strobe lighting should not watch this.
Yeah. Well, basically, I figure by now anyone knows my name is the warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bogus Hangout. I play with the backgrounds. Everyone knows it. It's part of our
That's
tradition.
the crazy thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, bless. Yeah. Oh.
For a lot of the other things, I got the software because it's very handy for doing branded backgrounds and things like that. When I want to do serious things, and if I want to do some video for clients, I can very quickly create.
What software is it, Ammon? What software is it?
This is actually gaming broadcaster software. It's called
Oh, is it?
XSplit Broadcaster. There is an XSplit Gamecaster as well.
Mhm.
But both of these allow you to capture and stream your games and put yourself in a corner of the picture, so to speak. You know,
Really?
I
Okay.
can quickly minimize myself
Oh,
down.
that's good, yeah.
So if I wanted to show, you know, if I wanted to show a game I was playing, and still for people to be able to see me as I was
That is
talking
really
my
good,
way through it,
actually, yeah. Yeah.
that's how you do it.
Because I can imagine that would be really good. Say you were doing things like, well, I was going to say you're doing things like webinars, but you actually are doing a webinar right now, so there's a good example.
I did use some of the features. I did a series called Ammonize, where I did live consulting, and I did use some of the features there when I was walking through the code of a site, for instance. You know, I'd pull up the code, but I'd minimize myself down the side so you can see the code and you can see me talking about it, and neither's in the way of the other.
That's interesting. That's really good. I bet it's good for like interviews as well. So if you were like side by side with somebody, you could, you know, you could kind of make it look like a newsroom, couldn't you? Really?
Yeah, I can take somebody's if somebody's got an IP camera or something like that, or I can take a Skype window even and bring that into this. I can put a Skype chat onto Google Hangouts live. You know, so it's kind of interesting. You can combine all kinds of different webinars together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. I like it. It's better than my picture of my on my kitchen wall that seems to be always on everything.
Yeah, Bill changed his pictures. He went flash for the beach thing.
Well, I actually went onto a webmaster hangout on the other side of my kitchen table the other day. I thought, oh, I'm going to mix this up a bit and be a bit wild.
Yeah. Jen is just practical. She says, I'm near the coffee and that's what matters.
Pretty much.
Exactly. I just bring mine with me in a giant mug. You know, that does me.
Man mug. I like that.
I had to invest in this because, you know, I had the standard mug, and if you're doing an hour show, you run out of coffee halfway through and you're gagging by the end of it.
Well, especially after you've just got back from a Pilates class, literally like 8 o'clock it finished. So, yeah, I was quite thirsty when I got in.
Yeah, well, it's getting to that time of year where you don't want to be running much more because it's starting to get towards.
I can't run at them. I've got a sore knee at the moment.
Oh.
I managed to damage my knee somehow. So I'm having to find alternatives. So Pokemon walking is quite good. Actually, I'll tell you what, you don't realise how much you've travelled when you do that. And as Jen got me hooked on Ingress as well. So I've been
of the two, I definitely think Ingress is the better game.
I like both, and I just think it kind of makes sense because the Pokestops tend to be where Ingress portals are, aren't they? So
yeah, all the Pokestops are based on an Ingress portal.
Well, why not just use? What's the point of being here? I'm not going to get both opportunities. Do you know what I mean? So I've not started battling anybody yet. In fact, I went into a battling gym with my Pokemon, and within like 1 minute, I was dead. So I thought I'm not going back in there for a while. So I've built up a bit of strength, but it's actually not that easy to work it all out. It's kind of just, but Ingress is the same. I still have no clue what I'm doing, and I'm at level. I'm nearly at level 6 now. I know it's pathetic, but there's not a huge amount of Ingress community in Manchester. So.
Just kind of pull up Aiden's comment that every PC he's ever had has been modded in one way or another. almost always starting with doubling the RAM. Yeah, and that used to be so important, particularly for Windows PCs, because they're the bargain basement ones. It's the area where the manufacturers knew that's where people wanted to save the money, was on the RAM. And for 20 years, if you get a PC from somewhere like PC World, Curry's, Dixon's, whatever, the chances are it doesn't have as much RAM in it as Windows itself is supposed to have. Never mind to run any programs on Windows. Windows itself is supposed to have a minimum, absolute minimum of 8 gigs. So if you've got a 4 gigabyte RAM computer, it's already having to use the disk non-stop. And this is why Windows has always had this reputation for being unstable and crashing a lot. Most of the time, it's never running on a computer that's designed to run it.
Sorry, I think Anton's just put a picture of me with next to Pikachu on Twitter. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I know it's him, really. I know it's him. Sorry.
Yes. I can see it there. Hang on, let me see if I can bring this in.
It's probably the closest I'll get to Pikachu, actually. So.
There we are. That's the picture Anton has shared. So nice one, Anton. We like that.
Thanks, Anton. It's all good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yep. Well, we are at time, so I'll do a very quick round of what we're up to in the coming week. Bill, you go first. What are you up to this week?
I'm working on putting together a blog post. I think it's pretty exciting. It talks about phrase-based indexing and how they tweaked that within the last couple of years in some interesting ways that nobody's really talked about much. So I figured it's time to.
Cool. Excellent. Jen?
Pretty much my week every week.
Yeah, you got to just try and keep up with whatever Google decide to surprise you with, and throw in a bit of Bing and
pretty much, yeah.
The death of Yahoo. Oh, sorry, the sale of Yahoo.
That's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens there.
Oh, they've tweaked their search results this week. I think both of their users noticed. Dawn, what are you up to this week?
I'm actually off on holiday back end of the week. But before then, I've got loads of stuff I've got to finish off. And you know what it's like when you're going on holiday. And as I said, I've got this blog post that I'm going to be doing that I hope to have finished in the next 2 days. So they take so long, don't they? My God. Just
only if you're doing it right.
I know they just take a long time, and you just feel like you have to go off and check everything to make sure that you're not going to get like the hounds of SEO jumping on you.
Well, you, me, and Bill say that, and then there's Jen who can turn out 50 great posts in a day. It sometimes seems.
Yeah, Jen's like a machine. She's like literally just a post machine. It's like a printing machine.
But this is, the advantage Jen has is she's blogging news and trying not to speculate. And of course, if you're not having to speculate and you're just having to pull the facts together, that can be a lot quicker than a lot of the things that we're doing, where we tend to write the more speculative kind of posts, don't we? Where we look at what's going on.
The panda one must have took ages.
That one took forever.
Because that actually had a lot of stuff that you had to kind of, fill the gaps with and ask a lot of questions, verify loads of things to make sure that.
And then just going and hunting down like all the quotes Google had said about Panda over the years, and the research phase of that was
come on, Jen.
The writing part wasn't so bad, but the research was a pretty long process.
Come on, Jen, tell me and Bill what you think forever is. How long did it actually take?
Oh, God. it took hours and hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, but you
I don't really want to think about how many hours it took.
that would take me like days and days and days.
Well, I think Bill often spends 20 to 30 hours on one of his patent posts.
Hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
It's like,
I will often
That's
spend.
just like a minuscule drop of the panda. It was a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those ones. I think though that when people are blogging often and fast, they're missing the point. You know, what's the value there? What's the real ad? And just quick morning posts can be good, but a lot of the time, that's not the kind of stuff that's going to get tons of links. It's good for touching base regularly and being part of somebody's life, but it's not going to get you links. If you're doing, content marketing, that's not the kind of stuff you can do on a post a day. It's not the kind of stuff you can necessarily do on a post a week. Because it's
I think there's always news though. I mean, Jennifer does a lot of news-based stuff, and Barry does news-based stuff. I kind of think there's always going to be possibly some news to be had that people are interested in, but I think you get a lot of these posts from people that are like, 10 this, 5 that, blah 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 blah. They kind of all merge into this blur. You know what I mean?
And it is one of the things. Jen does manage to stand out somehow in her coverage of the news, whereas I do find sometimes search engine land, search engine journal, search engine what. I couldn't tell you which one had posted this story or that story half the time. Sometimes they do an extra one. Some of Search Engine Land's in-depth ones that are designed to be, the go-to resource are very, very good.
But I spotted one the other day that was awesome, and it was a piece. I mean, it was actually, I think it was done quite a while ago, and it was Barbara Starr's knowledge graph thing. That was a brilliant article. I mean, I know it's not like brand new, but all sorts of things just stay forever, don't they? They last forever, those kind of pieces.
Yeah.
We've got to get her back on, Bill, because it's a long time ago since that Susie chat we had. But, that was a fascinating dip into knowledge graphs back then when most people weren't talking about those things too much.
Well, I mean, still, not everybody's got their head around it, even now. You know what I mean?
If you can, Dawn, look up her post about hummingbird.
I've seen some of them. I've started looking at some of Barbara Starr's stuff. In about 2012, when I started getting interested in the whole ontology thing. Quite a lot of her stuff kept coming up in searches I was doing around, OWL and the DARPA stuff came up, so because I bought quite a few books, like the Working Semantic Web for the Working Ontologist.
Right.
And like I say, Barbara seemed to come up quite a lot in the search queries, and I remember there was one where she was interviewed and she was saying that eventually, in her thoughts, search results would literally just be like, it would all just be like structured data that would come out, if that makes sense, yeah? So I have to look into it a bit further because it's a while ago, but I just remember it was a really, really interesting piece, actually. I can't even remember where it was on, but it was an interview with Barbara Starr. So. Well,
definitely worth looking up. We've got to go, everyone. We will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
I know.